Good morning and welcome back to the Football Terrace. Big reports in the past 12 hours that Manchester United's second official bid will be accepted by Borussia Dortmund. The deal feels imminent now. Man United could get this secured by the end of this week and the announcement in the course of the next few days. With me this morning to break that down and to delve into many more transfer shows right here on the Done Deal Show is none other than Pete O'Rourke. Morning, sir. How are you?
Morning, Terry. All good. How are you?
Mate, I'm very, very good indeed. It's nice to see it enter the group stages, the knockouts on the way. The possible. Well, we know England versus Germany in just under a week's time, and Jadon Sancho to Man United seems, to me, all but done and dusted now.
Yeah, it seems that way. This deal is finally edging ever closer. As we all know, this was the transfer saga of last summer when United thought they were going to get Jadon Sancho then, but Dortmund stuck to their guns and managed to keep hold of the England international. And as I said, it sort of affected his form at the start of last season, but he came good at the end of the campaign. And I think United have been keeping long-term tabs on him. We all know Jadon Sancho wanted this move to happen, and it seems a fee is close to being agreed between United and Dortmund. And probably the biggest sticking point right now, Terry, will be the structure of the payments of this deal, because everything else, as you said, in principle, seems done and agreed.
Absolutely. And what a lot of the kind of Simon Stones of this world were putting out last night was very much a message of it's still around sort of £5-10 million below what Dortmund wanted, but there is a growing confidence both from Dortmund and Man United that it will be enough. And as you say, it is that structure. It's reported of being paid over 3 years. The incentives, which are really intriguing in this deal, are connected more to club income as opposed to club achievement. So as Man United's revenue grows and they hit new markers, then Dortmund are going to be paid additional money. But as you say, it does appear to be getting closer and getting over that line. One of the reports that we read this morning is that although it's expected to be completed in the next week, the deal is imminent. The formal announcement might not be made until after the European Championships, maybe sort of a bit of a holding tweet or something along those lines. Is this something, would you expect to see official word come out about this between now and the end of the Euros?
Yeah, I think this one probably will get confirmed after the Euros. Obviously, Jadon Sancho wants to put all his focus on the Euros with England. Obviously, England are through to the last 16. They've got a massive game against Germany, with Sancho coming up against a number of players that he comes up against in the Bundesliga week in, week out for Dortmund. So Gareth Southgate won't want any news filtering out to unsettle his squad and possibly unsettle Jadon Sancho. I know a lot of England fans feel we haven't seen enough of Sancho in this Euros so far. People have been calling for him to be getting more minutes. He got a few minutes off the bench against the Czech Republic on Tuesday night, but obviously England have struggled for creativity, not scoring a lot of goals. So fans have been calling for Sancho to maybe be the answer to that. He'll be hoping to get that call from Gareth Southgate for such a massive game against Germany. And if you look at the side of the draw that England are in, if they can get past Germany, there's no reason why they can't get to the final the way it's set up for them right now. And Jadon Sancho will be hoping to play his part in that one, but I can't see any transfer announcement being made while the tournament's ongoing. But as soon as we're finished, probably a couple of days after the Euros, depending on how far England go, I fully expect Manchester United and Jadon Sancho to announce his transfer. And Sancho will be in the red of Manchester United for next season, which will excite a lot of the Red Devils.
It absolutely will. It's been a deal that, of course, has protruded two summers on the bounce, really. So a year in the making. And Man United have been scouting him heavily since 2017. It's been a player that Man United have wanted for a very long time. So of course, there's excitement that this deal is now getting over the line, and there is almost an element of, United have ended up getting them a lot cheaper than I expected to. The quoted prices this morning from the British press is around 85 million euros, which is sort of in the low to mid 70s for a player that was quoted at 120 million pounds just 18 months ago. From a financial standpoint, how good a piece of business does this represent for the Red Devils?
Yeah, I think, as you said, they've waited a year to get this deal done now, and 120 million was probably excessive amount, and that's what Dortmund used last season to scare off United. But if you can get somebody like Jadon Sancho for 85 million pounds, I think it's a good deal. He's still a young player. He's only going to get better, and I think he looks like he's really up for this move to Old Trafford as well. And it could be the missing piece in the jigsaw for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side. We all know the right side of the attack has not been United's strongest point at the the last couple of seasons, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has identified that. He made Sancho his top target, although he's had to wait a year to get it done. He's going to get him in the building now, and Man United fans and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be expecting big things from Jadon Sancho straight away. And I think if he goes in there, hits the ground running, that fee pays for itself right away.
Absolutely. And a lot of talk about the salary of the player as well. £250,000 per week as the base, around about £100,000 a week. If we break it down to weekly terms, which we still seem to strangely do with football, considering they're paid monthly. But I mean, a good base pay rise of around £50,000 a week for him. He's on 200,000 right now at Dortmund, so it's good. And I think it's also a good piece of business from Man United to incentivize the gargantuan wage. To me and you, 200 grand a week is gargantuan. I love that. But from a footballing standpoint, in their world, £200,000, £250,000 is a very good amount of money to be on. But to get to that kind of 350, which puts him in one of the top earners across Europe, he has to perform. Man United have to win games. He has to score and create goals. He has to play a certain amount of minutes in games. I think over 60, 65 minutes per game. So it's a sensible thing, would you say, from Man United to incentivize a large proportion of that massive wage?
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. I think we all know Man United are a very rich club and everything else, but even they've been affected by the COVID pandemic on their finance as well. So clubs to use these clauses in players' contracts to try and incentivize them to maybe performance-related bonuses and everything else, I think it should be the way forward. We all know a lot of fans aren't happy with some of the wages that players do pick up these days. So if you can do ways around performance-related bonuses, I think that works for everybody. So if Jadon Sancho comes in, gets so many assists, so many goals, I think he will get very well rewarded by Manchester United. I'm sure that'll be in his contract as well for performance related. It won't just be minutes on the pitch. It'll be assists, goals, also progression in the Champions League. If Man United get into the latter stages of that, I'm sure there'll be related bonuses in his contract for that as well. So yeah, he's not going to be short of a few quid. Let's put it this way, Jadon Sancho. But he's such a young player. So much hype has been around this move. I'm sure he'll just be desperate to get it done and over the line, go in there and start training with his teammates and look forward to the new season in August. And I'm sure money's not even a factor in this right now. It's just the chance to go and play for Manchester United and to come back to England and showcase his talents on the Premier League stage.
Absolutely. And I think, look, the agents will deal with the money side of things. And of course, Jadon will have a say in what's going on. But it's the agent's job to, I'm going to get you as much money as possible, the best deal possible. You just focus on the football. And with the level of performances Jadon Sancho has put in the last 3 years in Germany, it demonstrates his professionalism. No player of his age in his age group has ever scored or created as many goals 3 seasons running ever from debut season to now in one of the top 4 leagues. So to put those level of performances in, to have those outputs, to have sort of the world at your feet, I think it demonstrates that professionalism, and you get rewarded in life. Regardless of your industry, we all earn different amounts in different kind of walks of life, and I think that for me, he kind of warrants that. We have a poll currently running right now. Will Man United secure Jadon Sancho this week? 58% think yes, they will. And as Pete said a little bit earlier, maybe not, I don't think there'll be a formal announcement with a music video and a big release. There may be a bit of a holding tweet to say we've come to an agreement. It's going to be pending medicals, etc., just to kind of keep the news at bay. But we'll see. There is a comment here actually from Shane on our Twitch account, Pete, and he said, it isn't that one. He asked a different question before that, the same person. That's why I've grabbed the wrong one. But he basically said in the question before this, if England get knocked out by Germany, would the Sancho deal be announced sooner?
Yeah, I think so. I think if England's participation in the Euros comes to an end quicker than many people expected, I would expect this transfer to be really ramped up. Manchester United will be keen to get it announced. I'm sure Dortmund will be keen to get it announced as well, so they can plan for life without Jadon Sancho. We know they're looking at possible replacements right now. They're looking at Daniel Malan of the Netherlands and PSV Eindhoven. He's one of their targets. And there's also been talk that maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi from Chelsea could be a potential replacement for Jadon Sancho. So I think both clubs will want this deal done as soon as possible. We're getting close to July now. A lot of clubs will be returning for pre-season training. And ideally, you want your signings in the building as soon as pre-season training starts so they can get used to the new teammates, start building a relationship with them. and everything else. And Dortmund, as I said, will be looking a decent chunk of that fee probably up front, so they can go spend it on a replacement. And that's probably the hold up right now, is, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Terry, was the structure of the payments. These big money deals, they just don't happen straight away. I don't think many clubs can go out there and just give you 75 million straight away to their club. So over the structure of 3 years, United will pay maybe 25 million or so each season for this deal for Jadon Sancho, and then Dortmund can use that in the transfer market themselves to try and strengthen their own squad. So yeah, I think once England are out, maybe let the dust settle a bit, but I fully expect this deal to be announced pretty soon after his participation at the Euros is over with England.
Yeah, so that'll be the 12th of July then when England go out. Once we're
very confident.
No, I'm only messing there. A few people in the comments say, how can Jadon Sancho be on 350 a week? That's not his base salary. It's 250 a week. It could rise to 350 if United are winning, he's scoring, progressing in tournaments, etc. So yes, that's the most it could be, but that's incentivized on top. Do us a favor, everyone that's tuning in this morning, please hit that like button for us. You can super chat or member chat in any questions you have for Pete regarding the Jadon Sancho deal and some of the others that we're going to be covering on today's show. You mentioned the replacements for Jadon Sancho. Callum Hudson-Odoi has been a name that's been mentioned on a few occasions. In relation to Chelsea, bit of an interesting day yesterday with Hakimi looking certain to join Inter Milan. Now, Chelsea never actually putting that formalized bid in, not prepared to spend the 80 million euros for Hakimi that PSG were. Another player linked with Chelsea, maybe to cover in that position, potentially with Hudson-Odoi leaving, is Traore from Wolves. What's your current understanding around that situation and what Chelsea are looking to do on that kind of right-hand side of the field?
Yeah, it's obviously an area that Thomas Tuchel has addressed. He wants to make changes there. He made a few changes near the end of the season. Reece James was the normal right wing back, but then he played as part of the three centre backs as well. We know Azpilicueta is not getting any younger either, although he's been a great servant for Chelsea. So Thomas Tuchel has obviously looked at this right wing back area. Hakimi was their top target. There was confidence inside the Chelsea camp that they would get this deal done, but looks like PSG have gazumped them. They've got in there with the big cash offer, which Inter Milan obviously prefer right now due to their financial difficulties. They need to pay off a lot of debts, I think, right now. So if PSG are stumping up 70 million euros for Hakimi, they're going to take that deal over Chelsea, who preferred to maybe offer 54 million plus a player such as Emerson or Marcos Alonso. So it looks like money has won the day for this one. Hakimi is set to join Mauricio Pochettino at PSG, and I think it's a good signing for them, but a big blow for Chelsea because I know he was one of Thomas Tuchel's top targets. He had a great season for Inter Milan last season, helping them win Serie A. So the latest name in the frame seems to be Adama Traore to maybe fill this role. It's probably a role a lot of people wouldn't expect him to fill. We all see Traore as an out-and-out winger, but he can play right wing back. He's done it a few times for Wolves. I'm not sure he's great defensively, but going forward, he can be devastating on his day. He's probably the fastest player in the Premier League for me. It's just about getting the consistency out of him. Wolves struggled at times to get the best out of him, but on his day, he's unstoppable. I think we've seen that. We've seen so many left backs have nightmares against him. He's just so strong, so fast. And I think if he was to go to Chelsea, he's a player that Thomas Tuchel could definitely improve. And if that was to happen, he could be a real nightmare for defenders up and down the country because he's got all the attributes to be a top player, Traore.
He certainly kind of splits opinion amongst the Chelsea fan base. There was hashtags yesterday of say no to Traore that were kind of everywhere trending. And I suppose when you're linked with Hakimi and then the next minute you're linked with Traore, there is a sense of disappointment maybe amongst Chelsea fans in relation to that. But it's going to be an interesting turn of events to see who they go after as well, because as we were discussing yesterday and sort of the build up to this show, the striker element is still a player that Chelsea want massively, and there are reports yesterday that Real Madrid have now started to make inquiries and been given the green light to start working on the Haaland deal. The news surrounding Chelsea has been very much, maybe they're looking at alternatives, the likes of Gerard Moreno of Villarreal and Spain. In terms of the attacking element at Chelsea and their pursuit of a new number 9, what's the latest in that situation?
Yeah, I think this is priority for Chelsea is to bring in a new number 9. We all know the struggles that Timo Werner had up front after his arrival from Leipzig last year. I think he got 6 Premier League goals, which is pretty much a poor return for the German international. It looks like Olivier Giroud is going to be on his way from Stamford Bridge as well, with talk of a move to AC Milan, while Tammy Abraham's just been totally frozen out of things under Tuchel. So the dream signing for Chelsea and for Thomas Tuchel would be Erling Haaland if they could manage to persuade Dortmund to sell him. I just can't see it this summer. We all know it looks like Jadon Sancho is on his way out of the German clubs. I don't think they can afford to let Haaland go in the same transfer window as well for me. So I think despite the money that would be on offer for Haaland and Chelsea probably being one of the only clubs that could afford the Norwegian, I don't think that move's going to happen. So they're possibly looking at other alternatives. Moreno from Villarreal. It's an interesting one, this, Terry, because there's been no real mention before about this potential move to Chelsea. He had a great season for Villarreal last year. I think he got 30 goals and 11 assists in 46 games for the Spanish side. And we all remember he scored a goal in the Europa League final against Manchester United. So he's proven he can do it on the biggest stage. A really good finisher. But I just think the thing that puts me off this deal possibly happening is his age. He's 29 now, Moreno. There's no real resale value in him after this if Chelsea were to make a move for him. And I imagine Villarreal will be looking probably 50 million plus for the striker after his great season for the club last season as well. So I think this one's unlikely for me. He's probably a backup too. But again, I think there's another name that might be in the mix for this one, and Robert Lewandowski, who's maybe given a few signals that he could be on his move from Bayern Munich, who will obviously fight tooth and nail to keep hold of him. But I think he could be a more realistic target for Chelsea, especially with the links between Roman Abramovich and Lewandowski's agent.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, again, with the age of Lewandowski, in some respects where I think that actually makes more sense on a, on a 2-year deal or a 1-year deal with the option to extend at the end of it. Something along those lines, big money, almost a little bit Edison Cavani-like, with what everyone knows Cavani isn't a long-term option for Manchester United. Lewandowski wouldn't be that for Chelsea, but with the amount of money that Moreno could potentially cost you in terms of transfer fee and salary, how is it going to be that much more expensive to get Lewandowski in, who is out and out not just a better striker, but a better football player overall? Is that something that you see Chelsea trying to sort of progress after he's out of the Euros now, so Poland are now out. Is it something you could see Chelsea looking to push forward with fairly soon?
I think they'll be definitely trying to make inroads into it. Obviously, it's not an easy deal to do because we know how important Robert Lewandowski is to Bayern Munich. He's their talisman. Bayern Munich don't really need the money. They're one of the wealthiest clubs in Europe as well, so they won't be pushing Lewandowski out the door. And as I said, it's just up to Lewandowski. If he maybe fancies a new challenge coming to the Premier League, I'm sure it would be in his dreams to maybe come to the Premier League one day and play against the top sides in England. If he was maybe to force the move, that would give Chelsea encouragement maybe to step up their interest in the Poland international. As I said, I think he's been a long-term target for Chelsea. Roman Abramovich is a huge fan of the forward, and I think, as I said, he's got close ties with his agent Pini Zahavi, who was helped involved when Abramovich first took over at Stamford Bridge as well. So there's a long-standing association between the pair. So that would help Chelsea's cause if they did get any encouragement that they could maybe lure Lewandowski away. I just think such a big deal like this one as well, they are very hard to do, especially in the COVID now has affected finances up and down and all across Europe as well. So Bayern Munich won't want to lose him. It'll just depend on whether Chelsea can maybe get Lewandowski to put the feelers out and maybe suggest that he does fancy a move to Stamford Bridge, and then I'm sure Chelsea would definitely ramp up the interest then.
Absolutely. And I think from my perspective looking at this, I mean, Lewandowski was linked about 2 months ago now. So very kind of mooted reports surrounding that. They went away. I don't think Chelsea are could end up being wrong here. I don't think Chelsea are going to make a quick snap decision on Lewandowski right now. I still think there's a 3 or 4 week window where they can weigh up what they're doing. They can look at the Haaland situation. You don't want to sign Lewandowski and then suddenly Dortmund change their mind about allowing Haaland to leave, and you're left with egg on your face because maybe the finances are not there this summer to get it done. Equally, you don't want to leave it too long and watch the parade go by. So there's going to become a really tough decision for Roman Abramovich and Chelsea soon around, do they stick or twist in relation to the Haaland pursuit? Lots of reports this week, including Lukaku. He tweeted out yesterday that again that he's happy at Inter Milan, very much implying that he isn't going to be leaving. He isn't going to be leaving this summer. So Chelsea, we know they're desperate for a new number 9. There's lots of links, but I don't think that there is a cast iron. They're going to get Haaland. They're going to get Sancho. They're going to get Lukaku. They're going to go after Lewandowski. It's almost at the moment I feel like Chelsea are more deliberating what they should do as opposed to trying to sign anyone. If that makes sense.
Yeah, my only thing, Terry, would be that Lukaku situation could change very quickly. We all know Inter Milan are struggling financially. If things don't improve for the Italian club, they might have to put Lukaku up for sale, even if he is giving out all the signals that he wants to stay at the club. So that opens a new door if Inter Milan say, look, we need this money, we need to sell you. And Chelsea will be near the top of that queue to bring Lukaku back to Stamford Bridge. He had an outstanding season for Inter last year, and he's carried that on into the Euros for Belgium with 3 goals so far. And I think if you're given the opportunity to sign a Romelu Lukaku in a transfer window, it's something you can't turn down. And I think he'd be a perfect fit for Chelsea. He'll be hungry. He'll have a point to prove to any Chelsea fans that maybe doubted him from his first time at Stamford Bridge as well. So whatever Chelsea do, they're champions of Europe. Things are on the up. Whoever they go for, they're going to make a real go for. And I think if you get the opportunity to sign a Lukaku or Lewandowski, it's something you can't turn your nose up at. And to get either of those strikers in would solve their goal-scoring problems straight away.
Absolutely. And I think Lukaku's comments of "I'm staying," I think that's the most sensible thing for him to do, because if Inter don't put him up for sale or they refuse to sell him, he's done the right thing. Yep. Equally, if Inter Milan then decide to sell him because of financial problems, it isn't Lukaku that's been the problem. It isn't Lukaku forcing a move. And I totally believe that he's happy there. I totally believe he loves it there. But I think that scenario, as you say, if the financial situation doesn't improve and Inter Milan look at it and think, we just need to raise more money, and Lukaku is an option, as you say, it could change very, very quickly. So that would be an interesting one. Another bit of news with Chelsea. Last night, we saw a number of outlets pushing out Billy Gilmour, of course, who impressed massively in England versus Scotland at Wembley Friday week ago. Linked with a loan move away, I believe, to Norwich City next year. How good a piece of business do you think this is for that young man?
Yeah, I think for Billy Gilmour, if he's not going to be playing at Chelsea next season, which it's seeming likely that he won't be breaking into Thomas Tuchel's starting 11, going out on loan, getting 30 plus games under his belt, I think would be the ideal scenario for Gilmour. We all know how talented he is. He's showing glimpses of that for Chelsea. I think when he made his full debut against Liverpool in the FA Cup a couple of seasons ago, I think he won man of the match. He was a standout performer in that one. And again, for Scotland on his debut there against England last week, he was the best player on the pitch for me. Unfortunately, then contracted COVID, which ruled him out of the game against Croatia, and Scotland badly missed him. But yeah, he's still only 20, I think, Billy Gilmour. And I think there's a long time ahead for Billy Gilmour in that Chelsea side once he does find his way into the starting 11, that he could become a big, big player for Chelsea in the future. So I think going out on loan to another Premier League club would probably be the preferred destination for Gilmour and for Chelsea, just to see how he copes with a full season in the Premier League. I spoke to somebody at Norwich yesterday, and they did confirm they're very much interested in signing Gilmour, but he did say to me there is a long list of clubs after Gilmour, and he wasn't sure exactly where Norwich would be on that list. So I think you're probably talking about half the Premier League would be interested in Billy Gilmour if he's available. You've got most of the bottom half teams would take him in a heartbeat. There's also been talk of Rangers would take him back at Ibrox. That's where he started his career. They might try and take him back on loan with the possibility of Champions League football at Ibrox next season as well. And Billy Gilmour would probably be very interested in that move to go back to Scotland, back to his first club, and his family still live up there as well. So that could be something that could be of interest to him as well. And I think he's a style of player who maybe would suit playing abroad as well, because he's such a technically gifted player. I'm sure there'd be interest in abroad for Billy Gilmour as well. So he's going to have loads of options this summer. It just depends what Chelsea want to do with him. And I'm sure Chelsea and Gilmour will probably sit down now once the dust settles after the Euros, and they'll make the best decision for him. But for me, the best decision for Gilmour is to go out there and be playing regularly, and probably doing that in the Premier League.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think a big decision will be around style of play as well. It's almost finding a team that's going to have elements of Tuchel style in it. I was listening to a really good interview with I don't remember the gentleman's name now. He's essentially the sporting director at Brighton, and he said that whatever Brighton. Dan Ashworth, yes, where a great interview where he spoke about how when they loan a player out, it has to be to a club that play with a similar or as close to our philosophy as possible. And I think that's going to be very, very key, finding that right club, as you say, playing the correct caliber of football to progress Billy Gilmour, but also to get the best out of his ability. There's no point sending him to a sort of... I felt really sorry for Maitland-Niles last year when he went to West Brom, because I thought he wanted to go and play in midfield, but then they put him in a team where the tactic is to kick the ball over midfield. It made almost no sense for him to go there, because you're never going to get the opportunity to showcase your skills. We saw how good I was really sad to not see Billy Gilmour play against Croatia, because he would have been up against one of the best midfielders of the last 20 years in Luka Modric. And it would have been such a... I'm not saying he would have pocketed Modric, but it would have been nice to see what he could have done like in that situation. So, but yeah, as you say, sky's the limits for him. I think he'll get a good move. As you say, Norwich have confirmed their interest. Someone you spoke to there yesterday, but it depends who else comes in for him. As you say, if somebody higher up the league table comes in, it might be difficult for them, no doubt. Viewers, do us a favor, please, this morning. Just under 1,300 of you watching live right now, which is amazing. Can you please hit that like button? Retweet this if you're watching on Twitter. And make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace and turning on that bell notification. We are going to be covering Raphael Varane later on in the show. An update if you're just tuning in live. Of course, Man United's second bid for Jadon Sancho has been submitted. The word is from both sources in the UK and in Germany, there's a huge level of confidence that this bid will be accepted. Final few elements over structure being conducted over the next few days. The official announcement isn't likely until after Jadon Sancho is finished at Euro 2020, but the deal is reported as imminent. The bid practically accepted, or is accepted at this moment in time. But as Pete O'Rourke told us earlier, Manchester United and Dortmund is very, very close, and it's likely that he'll be wearing the red shirt of Manchester United next season. Let's say we're going to be touching Raphael Varane a little bit later, but we do have a super chat here that's come in. This says, any news for Arsenal this summer for signing good players? Lots going on, Pete, Arsenal right now. What's the latest?
Yeah, Arsenal seem to be the one that are dominating the transfer headlines in the papers in the last few weeks. Seems like Mikel Arteta is just trying to throw his hat into the ring for any players that maybe he could lure to Arsenal right now. As we've mentioned before in the previous show, Terry, it could be a struggle for Arsenal this season to try and attract players to the Emirates. No European football on offer. Obviously, they didn't have a great season last term as well, with a poor finish in the Premier League as well. But it seems Arsenal's main targets right now is an attacking midfielder and possibly a striker if they can get those deals done. But I think a lot of Arsenal's transfer business will depend on players heading out the exit door at the Emirates. The likes of Granit Xhaka probably will be on the move to AS Roma. We've got Hector Bellerin, who seemingly is surplus to requirements also for Mikel Arteta's side. He seems like he could be on the move back to Spain as well. There's other players, Joe Willock, who had a great season on loan at Newcastle last season. He could possibly be sacrificed just to raise some money as well. The Emile Smith-Rowe one still doesn't go away. I know Arsenal remain confident that he will sign a new contract to extend his stay at the club, but Aston Villa aren't going away anywhere. They still pretty much keen on trying to lure him away from Arsenal, and that's a real worrying sign for Arsenal if they were to lose one of their best young players to a Premier League rival. So maybe Smith-Rowe is playing a good game here. He's getting this Aston Villa interest, maybe to push up the price on the type of deal that Arsenal might offer him as well. But yeah, it seems like Arsenal are going to be one of the busier clubs in this transfer window, and it's probably something that Mikel Arteta needs to do right now, is to strengthen that squad, because they really underperformed last season. And again, I think a lot depends on how much Stan Kroenke does dip into his pockets to give Arteta, because I don't think they're going to be spending 40 millions, 50 millions on the top players, and even attracting those marquee signings is going to be an issue for Arsenal this summer as well.
Well, and that's absolutely right. And I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans I've seen on socials in the last week or two are getting frustrated at the level of players their club's being linked to. And I understand that normally the big clubs are always linked to, it feels like hundreds of players in a window. What's really intriguing about Arsenal this year is that these links seem fairly credible, but it's like news that's come out in the last few hours about Edouard. We know Arsenal are interested in him and they're looking at him this summer, but now it appears Atletico Madrid have entered the race. And this is where Arsenal fans need to be realistic. And I think Arteta is being realistic. Would Hassan Aouar join Arsenal? Yes. But would he pick Arsenal over Atletico Madrid this summer? I don't think so, because of where they find themselves. And if Arsenal are not sort of spinning lots of plates at the same time trying to get these deals done, then I think it's hard for them. I think that the interesting element is to that super chat is the big players. Of course, they're linked with massive links with Maddison as an example. They've already made this week inquiries into Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez. Aouar is another player that they're looking at in terms of that. We know that Lokonga is very close to being a done deal. The Smith-Rowe situation as well. Do you see Arsenal making any marquee signings in the short term in this window, or do you think this could be quite a long and a long window for them in terms of before they make a big signing and get a big deal in?
Yeah, I think it could be a long and frustrating window, not just for Mikel Arteta, but also for the Arsenal fans who see themselves linked with so many players in recent weeks. I think Lokonga from Anderlecht, that will get done, but that's probably with an eye to the future because he's a young player with real potential. And he's not probably 15 million from Anderlecht will get that deal done, I would imagine. I think if they're to make a marquee signing, apart from Ben White from Brighton, who will probably cost close to £50 million to come into defence. I know a lot of Arsenal fans will be thinking, oh, why are we signing a defender for £50 million? Can we not use that elsewhere to strengthen the midfield or the attack or something like that? I think one name that will probably crop up again between now and the close of the transfer window is Phillip Coutinho. He's obviously surplus to requirements at the Camp Nou. He's not really in the plans of the club or Ronald Koeman. He's had a few injury problems this season as well, but on his day, he's a quality player, as he showed when he was at Liverpool. I think he was one of the best attacking midfielders in the Premier League during his time at Anfield as well. His agent's got very close links with the Arsenal hierarchy. I think this deal could suit everybody, really. Barcelona want him off the wages at their club, and Arsenal want somebody like of that ilk of a creative player to maybe replace Martin Odegaard, who seems like he's going to stay at Real Madrid. So I think this one's more realistic than a James Maddison. I just don't see Arsenal spending 60 million plus on James Maddison, and even Leicester willing to accept that and let Maddison go. I just don't see that happening either right now. So I think for me, maybe a Coutinho, and maybe one that I've heard is in the background is if Lacazette was to leave the club this summer, Arsenal might rekindle their interest in Celtic striker Edouard. It seemed like it was a done deal to Leicester a couple of weeks ago, but that has gone a bit quiet. I think that move has fallen through and collapsed now with now Leicester looking to do Daka from RB Salzburg, and that move is really getting closer and closer to getting done. So I think if Leicester do that, they probably won't be pursuing their interest in Edouard. So that maybe opens the door for Arsenal to sign the young French striker, the France under-21 international, who would be relatively cheap in the market. I think you could get him between 12 to 15 million pounds as he is entering the final year of his contract at Celtic. So I think if there's movement out of Arsenal, I think there'll definitely be money available for Arteta maybe to make moves for the likes of Coutinho and Edouard.
And look, Coutinho and Edouard are good signings. It's certainly an improvement on the squad that Arsenal have got right now. And, especially Coutinho. Coutinho is an interesting one. I'd be very intrigued to see him back in the Premier League because every time I've watched him play for Barca or Bayern Munich, I've actually been quite impressed. He still looks like the player that we like. Maybe some players are suited to the Premier League more than elsewhere. And Diego Forlan was the opposite of that. Couldn't kick a ball properly in the Premier League. Everywhere outside of the Premier League, including internationally, he was an absolute star. And maybe Phillip Coutinho would be the opposite. You mentioned Ben White a few moments ago. When we spoke last week, £40 million bid had been rejected. There was talk about a £50 million bid going in. Has there been any movement in Arsenal's pursuit of Ben White?
No further movement as yet. A second bid has not gone in. I believe Arsenal are preparing it. They're getting all the right signals from his people and from Ben White himself that Ben White really wants this move to happen. And that's all the encouragement Arsenal need. They know that the young Brighton defender is ready to come to the Emirates and become a key man in Mikel Arteta's long-term vision for Arsenal. I'd expect, again, maybe a bid to go in next week as well. We all know Ben White's away with England at the Euros as well. So a bit like Jadon Sancho, because these players are away on international duty, it does hold things up, and Ben White won't want to feel unsettled while he's away with England, and maybe Arsenal will respect that as well. So I think Arsenal I'm fully expecting them to come back with a new bid for Ben White. But from what I've been told, they're trying to get Hector Bellerin out the door as well to try and bring some money in pretty quickly. So if that was to maybe happen quicker than we expected, that Bellerin does leave Arsenal then have the fund to go and make an improved bid for Ben White. But yeah, it's a big deal as well if you think about it. £50 million for a player who's had just one season in the Premier League. Undoubted potential there from Ben White, as we saw at Brighton last year, but it does seem a big fee for such a young player.
It doesn't. In terms of moving people on to get that deal done, I might be putting 2 and 2 together and getting 137 here. But there was talk yesterday morning of, do Man United actually have the funds for this deal? And then an hour later, Inter Milan secure a deal for 80 million euros, and of course they owe Man United 40 million pounds. That deal gets accepted. We do believe that PSG are paying cash outright for that player, which of course they've got the money to do. And then suddenly Man United have the money to make their second bid. That I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that we know this happens. Football clubs will sometimes go, well, we want to put the bid in, but we're going to wait. We need to make sure we've got X amount coming in from this signing or whatnot. Maybe that's what Arsenal are now waiting for when it comes to Ben White. Maybe even when it comes to lokonga, to get a few players secured as leaving, so they know those wages are going to be gone. They know they've got an income from the sale of those players as a guarantee to the football club before, as you say, they make these official bids. Because once they're official, things move very, very quickly in this game. And we saw with Chelsea. Chelsea have made no official bid for Hakimi, although they were talking to the player's agent and intermediaries for absolutely ages. So maybe with the sale of Bellerin, maybe with Xhaka going out, as you say, freeing up that salary, we'll see the Ben White deal completed, because he, as you said, he certainly seems like he's confident in getting the move done and wants to go to play at the Emirates next year, which should be encouraging for Gooners everywhere, that there is a player, an England international on the rise who wants to come and play for you.
Yeah, I think Ben White, one of the best young defenders in the country, and I think he's only going to get better and better. He will definitely improve that Arsenal defence, which has come in for pelters last season with so many issues at it. A lot of Gooners weren't happy with David Luiz, even Rob Holding having a regular run in that side as well. And I think a few of them have been unhappy that maybe they haven't used their best defensive options. Pablo Mari came in probably at the back end of last season and did well in places as well. But I think they need a solid back four. They need two centre-backs in there playing regularly to try and forge a relationship, to try and build from the back, because that's what Arsenal need. They've been seen as a bit of a sort of weak spot for them for a while now, Arsenal, and not just the back four, even the goalkeeper, because I think if they got an offer for Bernd Leno, they wouldn't stand in his way right now either. And they've been looking at the likes of Aaron Ramsdale of Sheffield United in England as possibly being as one well. I think Arsenal's transfer strategy is changing for me. I think they're looking at younger players right now, maybe with a potential resale value as well. And maybe Gunners maybe won't like to hear that, but I think that's where things are looking right now at Arsenal. They're going to try and sign players with potential and potential resale value as well.
Well, I think they have to, because it's almost creating a double-edged sword. If you buy these young, talented players and they turn you into a great team and you progress up the league and you're back in the Champions League and you're back challenging, you can re-sign them onto bigger, more potent deals and keep them. But if they do very, very well, but the team overall doesn't improve and they want to leave, there's sell-on value. So at least you can recoup money and then start again, as an example. And the model has to change. You can't keep, it's better that model than signing Williams on £300,000 a week, or at the end of their careers with no sell-on value. It makes much more sense to do it that way, because at least you protect yourselves as a football club commercially and financially that way around. But it remains to be seen what's going to happen there. Viewers, make sure you're hitting that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're new to the Football Terrace. And this Done Deal show, every Tuesday and every Thursday, we're live 9 a.m. in the morning with Dean Jones on Tuesday and, of course, Peter O'Rourke on Thursday. So make sure you're here every single week for that, for a full breakdown of the transfer news. And, of course, as the season starts, it will merge more into football news as well. It won't always be transfers, but make sure you stay with us here. Subscribe, like, and share this stream. We are going to be covering Raphael Varane a little bit later on, so stay with us for a full update on Raphael Varane's potential transfer away from Real Madrid later on. But we're going to stay in North London. Tottenham. Seemingly another rejection yesterday. I don't know if it's rejection number 10, 11, 12. It reminds me of a night out when I was 18. A lot of no, go away, Terry. They've been turned down again by another manager. This scattergun approach is a lot of Tottenham fans I speak to almost feel embarrassed by the approach of the club moving forward. There's now links again with Nuno Espirito Santo. What's the latest with Tottenham and their current managerial pursuit?
Yeah, I wish I knew, Terry. It's as you said, it's been embarrassing, this whole Tottenham managerial hunt. They've been linked with more managers than I've had hot dinners probably in the last few weeks. I don't know. They just don't know what they're doing right now, Tottenham, and that's a real damning verdict on Daniel Levy and the board right there. Like, how many names you could ring them off? Brendan Rodgers, Nagelsmann, Pochettino, Conte, Fonseca, Gattuso, Lopetegui as well. Yesterday now coming out and said, all saying they're not interested in this job. It's not going to happen. And now it seems like Tottenham are going to do a U-turn and try and move for Nuno Espirito Santo, who initially was ruled out of the running by Daniel Levy and the Tottenham board, but it seems like they're going to go back now, cap in hand, and maybe talk to Nuno about taking over from Jose Mourinho at Tottenham. It's been over 2 months now since Mourinho's left, and it just seems like they've made no real progress on who will replace him and what the long-term strategy is. They've obviously brought in Fabio Paterici from Juventus as managing director. It's his mission to get this manager call right. It seems he does have a liking for Nuno. He thinks he could be the right man, but again, Nuno, he left Wolves at the end of last season. We all thought he was going to take the Crystal Palace job before that collapsed at the 11th hour over his demands. He was in the reckoning for the Everton job as well, but from what I heard, he didn't interview very well for that job, and that's why Everton got cold feet over maybe appointing the Portuguese. So now it seems Tottenham could maybe give him that chance to stay in the Premier League as well. And I don't think Tottenham fans are going to be pretty happy that they've had so many links, so many false dawns that maybe they were going to get a top manager like an Antonio Conte or Mauricio Pochettino back, and now they're being linked again with Nuno Espirito Santo, who, although he did a good job at Wolves, he's not the big name that Spurs fans have been crying out for.
The U-turn element is the area that I am so focused on as a football fan, because Daniel Levy has had this. I know that Gary Neville's been getting memed for this in the last few weeks from a comment he made a couple of years ago around Daniel Levy being the best in the business. If you go back 2 years ago, I think the majority of football people would have agreed that Daniel Levy, the way he has run Spurs, they've become resolute in the transfer market. They don't overpay. They don't sell their stars to rivals anymore. They have built this new stadium. They were progressing. They went from being also runs every season to loosely challenging for titles, playing excellent football, Champions League final. And there was this thought that Spurs were on the precipice, the edge of becoming a giant club in England and in Europe. You fast forward 2 years, and I mean this with no disrespect to Tottenham, they have become a joke, an absolute joke. And something Dean said the week before last on the Done Deal show is it's why there is this confidence amongst teams about signing Harry Kane, because the continual U-turns, the questioning of himself, the poor decision-making. We're going to rule out Nuno. Now we're going to go back in for him cap in hand. You know, what message does that send to the club? You mentioned Paterici that's come in. He's number one target. The club then said no to in the end. He then suggests Gattuso, and I understand the fans didn't want Gattuso. If you employ it, my rule on employment is if you employ someone to do a job, you employ them to do their job, not for you to tell them what to do. You're bringing them in because they're the expert you want. And it seems the first two options that Paterici has suggested, the club has overruled on for one reason or another. So, you know, I wouldn't even be surprised if before they sign a new manager, Paterici's gone. With the way it's gone, that wouldn't even shock me. I don't know if it will happen, but I wouldn't sit there and think, oh, that's mad. I can't believe that. That's the way it's gone there now. And look, Nuno Espirito Santo is a good manager. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know what message it sends to the squad. I don't know what message it sends to Harry Kane to sign a manager that you initially ruled out on. And after 9, 10, 11, 12 other people have rejected you, you go back to them. That cannot leave that squad with a sense of confidence going into a new season.
No, definitely not. It's just a sense of confusion around Tottenham right now, and particularly in the situation that the club find themselves in. That is definitely where they don't want to find themselves. They're trying to find a manager who will convince Harry Kane to try and stay at the club and say the good times are coming back to Tottenham. This managerial hunt is anything but that. It's been difficult. It's been protracted. It's been embarrassing. In so many ways, it's just been so wrong for Tottenham and everything. And Harry Kane will be sat there with England thinking, do I really want to go back to that? We're going to get our 10th choice manager maybe to be in charge next season. It's not going to really fill the players with a lot of confidence that the club are on the right track to go and challenge for trophies and everything else, which is maybe a bit unfair, say, if it is Nuno and everything else, because it's not his fault that Tottenham have missed out on all these other targets. But I'm sure he would jump at the chance to be given the Tottenham manager's job right now, because it's a top job still. But the way Tottenham have conducted themselves over the last couple of years leaves a lot to be desired. And I think it all stems from they got it wrong after Pochettino got sacked. Mourinho probably wasn't the right choice for the club at that time. They made the wrong choice then. It seems they don't want to make the choice right now either, because they can't seem to make a decision, and just this confusion just leads to so many problems on and off the pitch, not just with the players, with the fans as well. And I still wouldn't rule out Graham Potter. I think he might have a great chance of this one. From what I'm hearing, the players would be interested in Graham Potter maybe becoming manager because of the style of football he plays. He's implemented a style that we now know how Brighton play, which we probably didn't know before he's got in there, with the passing style, the high press and everything else. And with better players, I'm sure he could get better results at Tottenham as well. So I think it looks like a two-horse race now, because there's probably nobody else left in the race right now, Terry, of Graham Potter and Nuno. If none of those two take it, I think they might as well advertise it on LinkedIn the way things are going.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm thinking of throwing my hat in. You know, I won the Champions League with Leyton Orient on Football Manager 10 years ago, and at the moment that could be a qualification that Daniel Levy might very well want. There we go. Viewers, get your views, get your comments in. Please make sure you're smashing that like button for us this morning. Of course, we're live, but you can play this back once we're finished in about 10-15 minutes time. Big Jadon Sancho news this morning. The deal is imminent. He will be a Manchester United player this year. Back to Man United and a little bit of Chelsea here. Raphael Varane's deal. I know we spoke about a week ago, and I think the majority of journalists and sort of football people felt that Man United and Chelsea and other teams across Europe had shown interest in Raphael Varane, but there wasn't really any concrete work going on, because nobody was convinced that either Real Madrid would let him go, or more importantly, that Raphael Varane would actually leave Real Madrid. That seems to have changed somewhat in the last week or so, with Madrid seemingly sort of trying to almost push him out the door by offering him a new deal, but a lot lower than he wants financially. He switched his agency to the London-based CAA base. It does feel like there's a lot more traction now and credibility in Raphael Varane leaving Real Madrid this summer. Yeah,
the stance in this one's totally changed. Like you, Terry, probably a week or so ago, I thought this was just a bit of a bargaining chip that Varane was using, getting his name out there, linked with certain clubs just to get the new deal from Real Madrid. But it seems like Real Madrid are going down a different path maybe right now. Sergio Ramos, probably earlier this year, we thought he was just using these links with other clubs to get a longer contract out of Madrid, but he ended up leaving Madrid last week. Very emotional goodbye it was for Ramos. His 16 years at the club are over, and it seems like Varane might be joining them at the exit door at Real Madrid, and that would leave Real Madrid looking maybe two centre-backs in the transfer window. They've got David Alaba already done in a free transfer from Bayern Munich, so he'll fill one of those voids, but I think losing Varane would be a big blow for Real Madrid. But all signals do seem to indicate that he could be on the move. And if he was to leave Real Madrid, Manchester United are probably in the box seat right now to get him. We all know that Manchester United have been looking for a top centre-back for the last couple of years right now. They want somebody to partner Harry Maguire. They think that could be the missing piece in the jigsaw alongside Jadon Sancho to maybe go and challenge for the Premier League title. And if they were to get somebody like Varane, who's a proven winner, not just with Real Madrid, but also with France, I think it would give a real signal of intent from Manchester United and be a real warning for the rest of the Premier League that Man United mean business this summer.
Yeah, I mean, the quality of Raphael Varane is absolutely undeniable. And I'm a bit like you. I can't even forget Man United. I don't imagine him wearing any Premier League shirt. He's always felt like a player that would do his business in Spain, maybe go back to France as he gets a little bit older. But a lot of the signs look good that he'll be leaving. We know that Manchester City and Chelsea have registered an interest in him, but as you say, you yourself have confirmed that Man United are in the box seat. I read a report yesterday, I think in The Athletic, which said very much the same thing in relation to that. How much money do you think a deal like this can be done for? Because Real Madrid are reportedly asking for around 80 million. A lot of the reports here in the UK suggest that United and Chelsea feel that maybe the deal could be done for between 35 and 45 million. What's your take on the finances behind this deal?
Yeah, the finances in this deal, I don't think it'll be anywhere near £80 million. Not with his contract situation at Madrid. He's entering the final year of his contract this summer at the club, so I don't think Real Madrid can hold out for such a big fee when he could sign a pre-contract with the club in January for nothing. So I think there's going to have to be a bit of common sense from Real Madrid with his contract situation. I think this deal could get done for about £50 million, and to get somebody of the quality of Raphael Varane for £50 million, which none of these clubs probably thought was possible 6 to 12 months ago, that they could even lure him away from Real Madrid. But it seems Real Madrid are open to the possibility of letting the Frenchman move on. They're maybe going to go down the younger route of bringing through maybe like a Koundé or a Pau Torres from Villarreal, who are younger centre-backs. Carlo Ancelotti is maybe going to try and lower the age at the Bernabeu to try and improve that Real Madrid squad with players. Even you sound strange saying this for Real Madrid, but with potential resale value. Real Madrid, we all know, have had financial problems as well due to the COVID pandemic as well. But Varane, he's 28. He had a few injury problems this season, so maybe wasn't at his best, but he's such a key player. One of the best centre-backs in Europe, if not the world. And I think if you can get somebody like Varane for £50 million, it makes good business sense to me. He's going to improve whatever team he goes to, whether that's Man United, Chelsea, or Manchester City. I just think he's a top centre-back, and his experience and class would make any of those clubs a lot better defensively. And it just seems to me like a Man United player.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Raphael Varane update for you. We're going to go to member chat. We're going to switch the chat across the member chat and super chats. Anything that you want to ask Pete over the last 10 minutes or so of this show, please get that in for us now. So I'm going to change that to, it's going to be a member chat. It's been done now. They've changed the options. I clicked on the options to change it to member chat, and they've changed the menu. I was looking at it and I had no idea what was going on there. So if you want to get your comments in, or you want to get any questions that you've got in, please get that done to us right now. You can become a member of the Football Terrace for as little as 99p per month. So you can ask these questions of Pete or Dean on the Done Deal show, plus other elements that are on the way as well. Is Terry in his pajamas? No, this is from Boohoo Man. This is not pajamas. This is from Boohoo Man. But thank you very, very much for noticing there. There's one question here from Twisted Bubba Pete that says, is Varane, in your opinion, better than Maguire?
In my opinion, I think he is better than Maguire, but the main thing that Manchester United will be thinking about, these two in a defensive pair, centre-back pairing, would be pretty formidable, I think. You've got Harry Maguire, who can play on the left side of the centre-backs. You've got Varane right-sided. It'd be a big improvement on what Manchester United have got right now. And we all know United fans have not been big vocal fans of Eric Lindelof. Eric Bailly on his day looks a top player, but just gets too many injury problems. So I think a Varane and Maguire would be right up there as among one of the best centre-back pairings in Europe, never mind the Premier League. So I think you probably don't look at the individual players in that way. You like to see if these two could play together, and I'm sure they could, because we know how good Maguire is in physical and aerial duels, and also very good on the ball as well, while Varane is just a top-class all-round defender. He's played at the highest level for so many years now. So I would say if you had to pick one, Varane's better, but the two of them together would be a pretty special combination for Manchester United.
No doubt about that. Comment here from one of our members, Slens, who says, any knowledge on possible departures from the Chelsea squad?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big summer at Chelsea, ins and outs. Lots of talk of Hakim Ziyech possibly on his way out of Chelsea as well. He just didn't seem to fit for Thomas Tuchel, even though he did score some important goals for the German last season when he did play. He got that equaliser against Manchester City in the league. He also scored the winner against City in the FA Cup semi-final. But it just seems his face didn't fit, and he won't be a regular starter for Tuchel. And AC Milan seemingly very keen on him to come to them next season, so he could be on his way out. I fully expect Tammy Abraham to leave as well. I'm sure he won't have any shortage of suitors in the Premier League. He'll have the likes of West Ham, I know, are very keen on him as well. There was even talk of Leicester, but I think that's probably moved on. Aston Villa also admirers of Tammy as well. But yeah, he needs to go and leave Chelsea for the good of his career right now. He just was totally frozen out under Tuchel, not even in the squad for the FA Cup final and other things like that. So for the good of Tammy Abraham, if he wants to be getting back in that England squad, he needs to go and play on a regular basis. So I'd expect him to be on the move as well. And Chelsea just such a big squad. I think there'll be a number of players who will be leaving there. Bakayoko, again, who's been out on loan for the last couple of seasons. There's been talk that AC Milan might try and get him. So if Chelsea can get rid of a few players, it does save on the wages and will enable Thomas Tuchel then to go out and maybe splash the cash on a big marquee signing or two.
I didn't realize until the other day that Bakayoko was still there. I was actually shocked. I was like, really? I sometimes just, oh my god, how has that managed to like slip through in that way? But there we go. We have a question here from Sharek, one of our long-standing members and big supporters across social media. Thank you, Sharek, for all the support you give us. He says, "Are we selling Lingard this season?"
Well, this one's up for debate. West Ham would love if Manchester United were going to sell Jesse Lingard this summer, but I think we've heard a few things that Lingard at the end of the season went back and had a heart-to-heart talk with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, saying that in his ideal situation that he would stay at Old Trafford and fight for his place next season. He did brilliantly for West Ham. I don't think many people expected him to go there and do as well as he did, but what he did at West Ham, he really raised his profile again. He got himself back in the England squad and was unfortunate not to be named in that squad for the Euros as well. So a lot of this depends on Jesse Lingard. I think United would sell at the right price, but his former West Ham has probably put that price tag up by quite a few £1 million as well, and that could maybe price West Ham out of a deal. So it's a tough one for West Ham. They would love him back, but I think Jesse Lingard's heart's still at Old Trafford, and he might go back there for the summer, see if he can impress Solskjaer during pre-season. But the arrival of Jadon Sancho is just going to increase competition for places even further at United next summer. So if I were Jesse Lingard, I'll be looking to move on, even as heartbreaking as it might be for the long-time United fan that he might have to leave for the good of his own career.
Yeah, it's that Champions League element. And I think this is another one of them deals where I think it won't be quick, because Lingard is going to try and get himself Champions League football in one way, shape or form. If that doesn't transpire, then maybe he looks at, with Sancho coming in, with the development, Man United spending a lot of money on Ahmad, as an example, Bruno Fernandes being Bruno Fernandes. If Pogba stays as well, I just don't see how much game time Lingard is going to get. And as you say, that there's that heartbreak element, because I love Lingard as a person. I think he's a wonderful guy, great energy in the dressing room, and a decent player. He scored an FA Cup. I think this is something that maybe I don't know why in the modern day game we tend to forget about these things. He scored an FA Cup winning goal. That is, I wouldn't call it legend status, but it's folklore for me when at those moments. And I think for me, he's been a tremendous servant to Manchester United since a young age, and I'd love to see him go somewhere and get that regular game time. Plus, he could also raise us a pretty penny, which could maybe help with signing a Varane or somebody else. We have Ben here with a super chat who says, "Will that's Dan James go when Sancho comes in?"
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult situation for Dan James if Jadon Sancho does come in. We've seen how well Dan James can play. I think he's been excellent for Wales at the Euros, playing on the left side of midfield. Lots of pace. We all know he's got that pace to burn, really. It's just been his final product that's maybe let him down on an occasion when he's been playing for Manchester United. I still think there's a lot of potential in Dan James. I wouldn't be selling him right now. Maybe a loan move. We've been talking earlier in the show about Billy Gilmour maybe going out on loan to get regular game time. I think the situation could be the same for Dan James. Still young, still improving. I think there's a player in there. We've probably seen more of it for Wales recently than we have for Manchester United last season, but he's got all the attributes, Dan James. I think he's happy at Manchester United as well. But as you mentioned, Terry, will Manchester United see this as an opportunity to cash in and maybe use funds for other signings? That's going to be a possibility that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to have to weigh up.
Absolutely. It really is. It really is. And Leeds were interested in him, as said. And again, it could be an extra, you might be able to make a profit on him. Like Leeds have wanted him twice now. You might be able to make a small profit on the signing of him, which would be a shock to many Man United fans. Twisted Bubba here says, can a one-horse race transfer target be any good? So I think what Twisted is our resident. He loves putting in difficult questions. So he's essentially saying Man United are in a one-horse race for Jadon Sancho. Is he that good a player? Is what he's implying.
Oh, he's a top player. I think his stats show that from what he's done at Borussia Dortmund over the last 2 to 3 seasons. He's probably one of the most talented attackers in Europe. And I know we haven't seen much of him for England at the Euros, but that's because it's a star-studded squad. Maybe Gareth Southgate doesn't trust him like he does trust some of the other players. But I'm sure Jadon Sancho, once he goes to Manchester United this summer, Twisted will see how good he is in that Man United team, because that's a real exciting prospect for Manchester United fans, is to have Jadon Sancho down that right, whether it's Cavani or Mason Greenwood in attack and then Marcus Rashford on the left. That's going to be pace to burn, and lots of skills as well up front as well. Sancho, he's not just a assist maker, he does score goals as well. He'll probably not get as many whatever goals as maybe he did in the Bundesliga, but I'm sure he will contribute a great deal to this Manchester United team next season and for many seasons to come.
There's no doubt, and I think that Twisted is what Twisted is. I like Twisted. every stream is about 10 really difficult questions, and you often need to present them back to him for framing, really. But I think people have got to understand this. Nobody else is doing. I've heard this with Bruno Fernandes recently. Like, he was never that good because nobody else tried to sign him. It's like, well, Liverpool inquired, Spurs inquired, Barcelona inquired, but he told his agent, "I want Man United." So tell everybody else no. Jadon Sancho, it's been one of the things that's been reported about that's been so clear and concise from nearly every single journalist in this deal from the start, is that he wants Man United. So when a player says, "I want to go Man United," teams that other clubs don't waste their time trying to sign him, because the Hakimi deal is a prime example of the opposite, where Hakimi said, "I'd love to play for Chelsea. Wouldn't mind playing for PSG either." So you create a little bit of a bidding war. But if Hakimi had told Chelsea weeks ago, "I've got no interest in coming to the Premier League," they wouldn't have put even a bid into an intermediary. That doesn't mean Hakimi's not a good football player. It's just about that choice and that preference. There's actually a report this morning. It's just sent through to me, actually, that Chelsea, this is from Sports Witness, and they're saying that Chelsea are to make a last-minute desperate attempt. This is their headline, not my words. Last-minute desperate attempt to try and snatch Hakimi away from Paris Saint-Germain. Would you be shocked if they actually did increase their bid and went in for him last minute? Would that be a shock to you?
That wouldn't be a shock to me at all. As I said, I think he's been their top target to fill this right wing back role. I know they've done extensive background checks on the player on and off the pitch just to see what type of character he is as well. So he's definitely been very high on that transfer list that Chelsea have compiled this summer. So if Chelsea think they can gazump PSG and get this deal done, they'd be foolish not to try and do it. If they have to raise the bid by much and maybe include one player or maybe even two players that Inter Milan might fancy, it might still work out for them. And again, as we mentioned, Terry, it's all down to the player here. If Chelsea come up with a deal that is agreeable with Inter Milan and it becomes down to a straight choice, he might fancy Chelsea over PSG, and I think he probably would if the two clubs came to an agreement.
Well, that's been, again, that's one of the things where I felt a bit sorry for Chelsea fans on this deal. Is a lot of the reports I heard early on about Hakimi were, if Inter and Chelsea both offered the same amount of money, both for the player to sign him and, of course, contracts, he would pick Chelsea. And at the moment, PSG have offered a lot more. So if Sport Witness are correct and Chelsea go back in today with a big money offer, who knows? And I'll tell you the real winner here is Inter Milan. So they'll be rubbing their hands at the idea of creating this bidding war, which is what selling clubs always want. Final question here from Sharek, who says, we've heard a lot about Locatelli. He's sort of attracted by a lot of clubs. Which of the Premier League clubs are in the strongest position to sign the midfielder, in your opinion, Pete?
Yeah, he's impressed in the Euros for Italy, Locatelli. There's been talk of Arsenal and Tottenham being interested in the Sassuolo midfielder. I just think he could be too expensive for both the North London clubs right now. You're probably looking at Locatelli being 50 million plus right now, and all signals do seem to suggest that he will end up staying in Italy, and Juventus are leading the race for a signature. Talk of maybe exchange deals, Juventus offering a few players to Sassuolo to get this deal done. I don't think Locatelli's in any real rush to leave Serie A either. So I think if I was a betting man, I would imagine Locatelli will end up staying in Italy this summer, and probably Juventus will secure his signature because they'll have big plans this summer with Allegri back in Turin. And after a real disappointing season for them last term, they want to be competing for the Serie A title and the Champions League. And Locatelli is a good young player who, in the future, hopefully we might see in the Premier League.
Yeah, mate. A lot of it's. I think he's staying in Italy as well. I totally agree. And the price is going to be inflated. Whenever I see a player have a good Euros, I just think Karol Probolski. It's always or El Hadj Diouf. Those two always creep into my mind. Absolutely. Thank you, by the way, to Jason Pierce, who's become a a academy member of the Football Terrace, and a big man's back with us. Man like Twisted Bubba has signed up and become a legend and super fan of the Football Terrace. And we should have an update on the super fan category soon in relation to the scarves. I got the quote back yesterday from the manufacturers for the legend and super fan scarves. And we are in preparation for our first Football Terrace away day. So we'll be doing a Football Terrace show, as you know and love, but it will be at a location, and legends and super fans will be sent the location ahead of time, kind of secretly, so that you can come and be audience members for that. So we'll keep you posted with all of that as things move forward. Thank you, Starlove, for that lovely comment that you love this channel. Well, it's only just beginning, and the Done Deal show, it's we're only 2 weeks in, and it's already going very, very well indeed. So again, massive thank you this morning to Pete for coming on, giving us your time and sort of your insight to a lot of the transfer dealings that are going on. But of course, the main topic today is Man United's bid for Jadon Sancho. Their second official bid is expected to be accepted by Borussia Dortmund. Finer details being ironed out, but most now believe he will be a Manchester United player at the beginning of next season, maybe wearing the famous number 7 shirt. Make sure you've hit that like button. Make sure you've hit the subscribe and click that bell notification button so you know when we go live. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all again very, very soon.